All right, so the first thing you need to know when you're drawing still lifes and drawing boxes is how to set up your drawing horse in relation to the still life and the mechanics of holding your pencil. So um, when we approach a still life and set up our easels or drawing horses, drawing stools, we want to be perpendicular to the still life with our drawing hand outside of it. So for a righty like myself, I'm going to look at where the still life is. I'm going to turn the horse so that I'm perpendicular to the still life, so that I can see the still life over my non-drawing hand and be able to look at the still life and the drawing at the same time. I also want to make sure that my drawing board is at a 90-degree angle to my body. I don't want that 60-degree angle. I don't want to rest it on my thighs as this or as such. It will make your drawing elongate. Your eyes will adjust for the angle and distort your drawing. So we want to make sure our drawing is set up at 90 degrees, like this. On these older stools, it's the first wooden slat that you can rest your drawing board against. Helpful hint for these drawing stools: do not lean all the way back or slide all the way back. I have done this in front of my students, and the drawing horse will flip up and you will fall on your butt. I did that my first time teaching this class here at McDaniel. So I'm all set up. I've got my drawing stool perpendicular to the still life. I've got the box that I'm going to draw. And the first thing I want to do is gesturally map out the drawing, or gesturally map out the box. But I do want to make sure I'm holding the pencil right. So if you remember from your reading, you're going to hold your pencil between your thumb and your forefinger, and the barrel of the pencil will go across the palm of your hand. This gives you a looser grip on the pencil. It allows you to do more of a gestural line. And it allows you to draw with your arm more than if you're holding it the way you hold the pencil to write. You end up drawing with your wrist, and it makes your drawing too compact and too tight. So we want to hold the pencil between our thumb and our forefinger with the barrel of the pencil going across the palm. So gesturally mapping out the box. I'm going to use a full sheet. I recommend that you students use a quarter of the sheet. So quarter your paper into fourths so you can do a single drawing of a box in each quarter. But for purposes of being able to see in the video, I'll draw the box on the full sheet. So I'm going to gesturally map out where this box is going in my paper. So looking at the still life, I'm just kind of loosely, again, holding that pencil loosely, mapping out the shape of the box. And there's going to be proportional issues wrong with this drawing. I'm just quickly mapping out where I think it fits on this page, trying to get it to use the space well. And you can see these lines are really light, gestural. I don't want anything dark and committed. I'm just trying to feel out the form of the drawing. So once I've got that mapped out and I'm okay with its placement, the first thing I'm going to do is commit to one line. And so I'm going to say the front corner of the box is the line that I'm going to commit to. I like its placement. So I mark a top and a bottom, and then I build my vertical line. And I try to keep these vertical, and a way that I do that is I use the side of the paper as a reference. I'm trying to keep that vertical parallel to the edges of the paper, so I don't see it leaning one direction or the other. So nice and vertical. And you see I'm not making one solid line. I'm not doing it slowly. I'm building it up in gestural lines, and eventually building that up once I'm sure that the box is set, I can tighten that up and make these lines a little bit more solid. But at this point, I do want a nice gestural searching line. So I've committed to this vertical. So what I'm doing when I commit to this vertical, I'm saying this line is proportional to the front corner of the box. I'm going to use this line to measure off the front and side widths of my box. So I'm saying this front line is the front corner of that box. It's going to be proportional to the object that I'm drawing, and the sides of the box will be proportional to this line. So to do that, the first thing I want to do is measure the width of my two sides, and I'm going to start with my left side. So when I'm measuring, I'm holding my drawing arm out, I'm keeping my elbow locked, I don't want it bent. I'm going to keep the pencil parallel to the box that I'm drawing, or to the still life. I don't want to see pencils pointed in, keep it parallel. I'm going to close one eye, you see the closing of the eye, so that I can see the still life properly. And when I do that, I then hold my pencil out, I slide my thumb, I put the tip of my pencil on the far left edge, and I slide my thumb to that front corner. And once I get that measured out, I want to turn that, keeping the pencil parallel to the still life, keeping my arm locked, and I slide my thumb down to the bottom corner of that front edge and see where that measured line intersects or falls on the front corner. And it's about 7/8 up on the box. So when I'm measuring that, I'm holding my pencil tip out to this edge, I slide my thumb till it lines up with this edge, then I take that measurement, I turn it vertical, and I compare this width to this height. So sliding it, turning it vertical, my thumb is down here, and I see where the tip of the pencil intersects, and it's right here, about 7/8 up. So then I mark that on my drawing. So I'm going to mark a little hash mark here, and then I take that measurement, it's a little longer than my pencil, and I turn that sideways, put a mark here, and here, and I need that leftover part, put it there. So I've taken this measurement, turned it sideways, and that gives me the left edge of my box. And we see my gestural drawing was off, the box needed to be a little wider, and I draw that in lightly, keeping in mind I'm keeping it parallel to the edge of my paper so it stays straight. And I'm just going to leave that there, and I'm going to measure the right side of the box. And I know that the right side is going to be not as wide as the left side because of the angle the box is turned away from me. I see more of the front edge, the left side, and less of the right side. So again, closing one eye, holding my pencil tip out. The pencil tip now is on the front corner of the box. So I'm going to put my pencil tip here, slide my thumb till it intersects with the back edge, and then I'll take that measurement, turn it vertical, and compare it to my front corner. Everything gets measured off of that front corner. So taking that measurement, turning it vertical, and it's about halfway on the box. And when I say about, this isn't an exact science, so I double check, turn that again, and I'm still okay with it being halfway. So I mark that on my front line on my drawing, I take that measurement using my pencil, turn it sideways, and I did get that side right. So I'm going to solidify this vertical, just strengthen it with a gestural searching line, still holding my pencil with my forefinger and thumb with the barrel across the hand, and just keep that loose and vertical. So I've got my two sides. Now what I want to do, and I want you to get in the habit of, is extend your lines all the way up, and I'm going to do this with these, I should have done it in the beginning. Extend them up beyond the edges of the form, so that when we start to draw multiple objects, we can see how these lines move past their object, or past the contours of the object, and intersect other objects in our still lifes when we're doing multiple form still lifes. So I've got my two sides, now I need to measure the bottom of my box. So I use my pencil as kind of a leveling device, and I hold it out horizontally, again keeping my arm straight, closing one eye, keeping it parallel to the still life object, and I put the pencil down at the bottom corner. So I'm holding the pencil across this bottom corner at a nice horizontal, and it lets me see the negative shaped triangle that would be created from the horizontal line of the pencil and the angled line of the bottom of the box. So it helps me see how the box sits on the floor plane. And I'll do that with both sides. So what is helpful is if I draw a horizontal line very lightly and gesturally across the bottom. I want to make sure that stays horizontal, it's not angled, so I use the bottom edge of the paper to make sure it's staying parallel to that line. So once I draw that in, I hold the pencil back out and I look at the two angles that are created in relation to that horizontal line. And I see the angle that, the side of the box that is turned more away from me is going to have a steeper angle. The side that's coming closer to me or turned more towards me has a less steep angle. So I want to try to mimic those two angles. This one is pretty close. This one needs to be steeper than what I originally drew. I want to double check that. And I can also hold my pencil at the bottom of the box and use it like a clock. So this would be pointing at 2 o'clock. This would be pointing between 9 and 10. So I'm going to bring this more towards 2 o'clock, more towards 9 or 10. Another way to double check that, I can extend a horizontal of my pencil from this back corner across the front to see how it relates to this corner. So there's a lot of ways to check your proportions and your angles just like you're checking your math. All right, so if I run that across, I see it intersects the box about here, and it's below, way below, the corner on the right side. So I can draw a light line across there, and then I'm going to double check this and see where that intersects the front of the box. A little bit below half, so about here. So I can draw that across. And so now I've drawn the angle in relation to the horizontal. I checked it on how it intersects the front corner. I've checked them in relation to each other. So now I can be a little bit more sure that these angles are correct. So I might want to darken them up. And I'm going to extend those angles beyond the edge of the contour of the form so that, again, when we get into drawing multiple objects, we can see how these lines intersect other forms in our space. So I've got the front sides and the bottom angles. Now I'm going to tackle the top angles. So I draw a horizontal line across, and I use my pencil again as that horizontal. And what I should see as we move up closer to our eye level, so these bottom angles are further from our eye level. As we move up the still life to our eye level, our angles become less steep, less severe. So these angles shouldn't be as steep as the angles below. So I'm going to hold my pencil out, and I'm going to see how that angle relates to this horizontal. I can also check it like a clock, and it's pointing closer to 9. And then I can see that this angle, this negative shaped triangle, is much smaller, less steep than the bottom one. But what I do want to see when we do perspective drawings, when we're drawing objects in perspective, these two lines should look like they're going to converge to the same point on a horizon line or our eye level off the edge of the paper. And same over here, these two lines should appear to converge to a point off the paper. So I'm going to hold that pencil out horizontally again and draw that. I think it needs to be a little steeper than what I originally drew. And I can still see that this angle and this angle will converge and meet at our eye level. So now I want to plot the back corner of my box, and I should be seeing that this box hopefully is staying proportional to the box I'm drawing. I'm not just drawing a made-up box. I want it to look like the object that's in front of me. So plotting that back corner, I hold my pencil out vertically. I can use my drawing arm or my non-drawing arm, and I'm using the pencil as kind of a plumb line, a vertical line that drops down from that back corner to see where it intersects the front. And it intersects about a quarter of the way over from the corner. So I'm gonna mark that, draw vertical up, and that means this original back corner that I gestually drew in is going to shift over. But I need to find the height of that. So I'm going to measure from the front edge where I saw that plumb line intersecting up to that corner. So I'm going to use my pencil to measure that and relate it to my front vertical. So holding my pencil out, keeping my elbow straight, closing one eye, putting the pencil on the back corner of the box and sliding my thumb down to the front edge where that line intersects. And then I'm going to compare that measurement to my front vertical, keeping my pencil parallel to my still life. And it's a little below half, about here. I'm going to take that measurement, so I got that marked here, use the bottom corner, and I'm going to bring that up, mark it on my paper, and this is one of the trickier measurements to get. And the way I can tell if the box is working, if I lightly connect the two front corner, or the two back corners, sorry, to that back corner, if the angles appear to be converging, I know I did something right. If this angle and this angle, this angle and this angle look like they're converging to their vanishing points, my measurement's okay. Right now, they're not converging. This angle and this angle appear to separate as they go away, and that means this back corner is up too high and it's going to make the top of my box look like it's flipped. So I want to double check my measurements. I'll double check the height of where I've plotted that back corner, but I'm also going to double check the angles of the top of the box, just to make sure I got those right before I make a lot of adjustments to my back corner. And looking at that horizontal, I think I can move this corner up a little bit. So I'm going to redraw that, and I'm going to double check this one as well against the horizontal. And I think that back corner also needs to move up. So darken that. You can erase. I like to keep all of my gestural lines, all of my measurements in the drawing. It shows the construction of the drawing. It adds atmosphere to the paper, so it's not just this lone box, but it lets us see how we developed our drawing, how we constructed this form. So I'm moving those corners up, and then I can look at it lightly and see if they're converging. And they do appear to be converging on this side, and this still needs a slight adjustment. No, that is converging. So when we extend our lines beyond the edge, we should be able to see that this front length is longer than this back length, and same with this. This should be longer than this, and that helps us see the convergence. So now I can solidify some of these lines. Again, keep your lines extending beyond your form, but then darken the contour of the form. So you can move around and darken up your lines. And at this stage, I encourage my students to keep the drawings gestural. Don't worry about tightening up the lines yet. Let's just worry about understanding the measuring and proportions of the form, and building that drawing with a searching gesture line. So I think this box I would call it done, and move on to drawing another box that will be set up in front of you. And then in the next stage drawings, we can talk about tightening up lines and maybe darkening the lines that are closest to us. But at this point, we have a drawing of a box, and hopefully we can look at the box that's in front of us and the box I've drawn and say that yes, it's one and the same. We're not going to worry about surface details, just the contour lines that create the outer edges of the box. So we don't want to draw any folds or flaps, cut handles that might be in the top of the box, just the object itself. Let us understand the structure before we move into details. So that's my demo.